If you still can't fall asleep, then welcome to Sound from the Darkness. Night 7, the day the gates of hell open. The 15th day of the 7th lunar month is China's traditional Hungry Ghost Festival. On this day, parents usually tell children not to go out after dark and not to answer if someone calls their name. What's so important about a name? Isn't a name for calling? I muttered as I skimmed that passage online. Fool, you must not have heard A Guang's story. If you had, you wouldn't rush to answer when someone calls your name on the night of the 15th. Oh, what happened? I knew he was about to continue. Sure enough, my friend tossed aside the book in his hand, pulled out 2 cans of beer, and began A Guang's tale. A Guang was my childhood playmate in the countryside. I mentioned to you that my family became well known and respected in the area thanks to the 8-tailed cat. In fact, A Guang was my playmate back then because his mother worked for my family. My childhood memory of him is cleverness, a kind of cunning wisdom. His big head was often stuck with a few blades of withered grass, and his crossed eyes darted around. He was half a head shorter than me, but incredibly nimble. He climbed trees, dug up bird nests, and fished in the river. Though I was half a year older, I always acted like his younger brother, tagging along while he taught me new and fun things. I only stayed in the countryside until school age, then returned to the city. But A Guang remained an unforgettable piece of my childhood. It was the year I graduated high school. I missed my childhood friends and that carefree life. One day in August, I finally went back home and met A Guang. He was now taller and leaner than me, strong and muscular, the main laborer of his family. Despite years of hard work, he looked sharp and lively. "You're back," he grinned, teeth white and neat, hands still busy with farm work. "Come on, let's hang out." "It's been ages," I urged. He glanced at his father, an old man walking with a cane. A Guang was the youngest, so his father must have been near 60. His father smiled and waved him off. A Guang cheerfully dropped his tools, wiped himself down, and headed my way. We had a wonderful day, reliving almost all our childhood games. Even the air felt happy. Before we noticed, night fell. August darkness arrives abruptly, as if the last glow of dusk was there a moment ago, and then, in a blink, everything turned pitch black. Let's go. It's dark, and today is the 15th. Of the 7th lunar month. A Guang dusted himself off and pulled me along. I hesitated. Our time felt too short. "All right, we'll come back tomorrow." I stood up too. He seemed in a hurry and walked fast, a few meters ahead of me. Walking the mountain path back to the village was a bit scary. By day I felt nothing, but at night the route was hard. I was surprised how fast he moved. Suddenly he stopped and asked, "What is it?" "What is what?" I asked, puzzled. "Didn't you just call me?" A Guang, he asked, equally puzzled. "No, you must have misheard." "Probably the wind," I explained. His expression changed instantly. In the darkness, his eyes flashed like willow, the wisps the old man once described. He glanced around repeatedly, neck twitching. What's wrong with you?" I was scared. After all, I was just a teen. He didn't answer, just grabbed my hand and ran for home, so strong he nearly dragged me back. He dropped me at my house and left. Before leaving, he looked pale, not angry, just drained. Our rural home was spacious. I slept on the 2nd floor. Next door was my cousin, son of my great-uncle, the one who once saw the 8-tailed cat. He was tall, kind, with a righteous bearing. I pestered him for ghost stories every day, and tonight was no exception, but he refused. He rubbed my head with a big calloused palm and smiled. Not today. It's the Hungry Ghost Festival. Don't tell those stories or you won't sleep. He turned to leave. I suddenly called to my uncle, a man from a scholarly family. Uncle, if someone calls your name and you can't see them, what do you do? My uncle froze, then rushed over, grabbed my hand, and shouted, "Did you hear someone call your name? Did you answer?" Terrified, I quickly said no. He relaxed. Before leaving, he repeatedly warned me not to go out at night for the next few days, and, if I heard someone call, not to answer. I must first look carefully at who was calling. Tossing under the covers, I kept seeing A Guang's frightened eyes and my cousin's worried face. I felt the village hid something. Maybe it was just a child's curiosity. The first thing I did the next morning was find A Guang. I feared something had happened, though I could not say what. Perhaps I worried for nothing. He came out rubbing his eyes, yawning, asking why I bothered him so early. Relieved, I spent another happy day with him. But as soon as the sun began to set, we went home. Those seemingly safe days lasted until the last day of the lunar 7th month, his birthday. He turned 16 that year. Because of the busy harvest, I hadn't visited for days. That morning the village was quiet and everyone busy. A mist had passed, and by the time I reached his house the weather had cleared. I carried red-dyed eggs my grandmother had insisted on cooking the night before to celebrate his birthday. The door was unlocked, so I pushed it open. People didn't lock doors then, especially if someone was home. I assumed he was still sleeping. He had played with me since I arrived and worked hard at home, so of course he was tired. I felt sorry for him and decided to throw him a cheerful birthday. A Guang, A Guang. I stepped in. The house was dark. Though the sunlight outside was blazing, a gloom fell as soon as I entered. His room was in the attic. The attic had been added later for necessity. It wasn't there originally. It was so low I had to duck to enter. The 15th day of the 7th lunar month is China's traditional Hungry Ghost Festival. On this day, parents tell children not to go out after dark and not to answer when someone calls their name. What's so important about a name isn't a name for calling, I muttered as I skimmed that passage online. Fool, you must not have heard A Guang's story. If you had, you wouldn't rush to answer when someone calls your name on the night of the 15th. Oh, what happened? I knew he was about to continue. My friend tossed aside his book, pulled out 2 beers, and began. A Guang was my childhood playmate in the countryside. He recounted, as before. I called his name again and again, but the little room was deathly silent. I crept up the steps. The attic was pitch black. I called again, no answer, thinking. He had stepped out. I turned to leave, and then saw something move in a dark corner. Is that you, A Guang? Why aren't you saying anything? I crawled over happily. As I said, the attic was so low I could only crawl. There was a window up there. As I crawled closer, sunlight filtered in. I finally saw him. I saw A Guang. My mouth fell open. I barely recognized him after a few days. The strong, healthy A Guang looked like a dead man. He was shockingly thin. Dark hollows sunk around his huge eyes, cheekbones jutting, his whole body gaunt to a terrifying degree. Shirtless, his ribs stuck out like piano keys. I only knew he was alive because his eyeballs moved now and then. What's happening? Why are you like this? I shook his big head and cried. He stayed silent, staring past me. It's calling my name. It's calling me again. It will take me away, he mumbled from his throat like in a dream. It who? don't scare me. I'm going to get help." I set him down and was about to go when he clenched my shirt with such force he nearly pulled me over. "Don't go. It's here. I see it. It's behind you," he shouted, pointing at the darkness behind me, face contorted. I spun around in panic but saw no one. I grabbed his head, stared into his eyes, hoping he'd come to. "No, don't. Be afraid. There's nothing." Before I finished, I saw something in his empty eyes, in his pupils. My vision blurred, so I leaned in. There was something in them. I slowly turned back. Nothing there, but I felt something approaching him from behind me, like some writhing thing creeping up his body from my feet. He convulsed in pain. I couldn't hold him. His eyes bulged, about to pop, and in the black pupil, a white figure appeared far away, grew larger, and finally filled his pupil. He spasmed a few final times in my arms and died. Before he died, he smiled. I knew he was finally free. Though I held him, my arms felt empty. Terror and grief overwhelmed me, and I cried. I cradled his body and wept for hours until the adults arrived. Then I blacked out. When I woke, I was in bed, head splitting, throat raw. My cousin stood beside me. I forced myself up and asked what happened to A Guang. With a sad face, he told me he was gone. I fainted again. Then I slept a long, hazy sleep. I seemed to see a Taoist priest performing rites by my bed, relatives nearby asking after me, and A Guang waving goodbye. 3 days later, I was fully awake. When my uncle saw me awake, he rushed to inform the family. Everyone rejoiced and my grandmother prayed to the gods. I asked what had happened, but he dodged. Finally, pressed, he cried and told me. The villagers were very worried. On the nights of the 7th month, do not go up the mountain, and never answer anyone calling your name. The back mountain was once an ancient battlefield with mass graves for countless unknown soldiers. At such times, the villagers invited priests to perform rites to ferry the fallen. After hearing this, I was consumed with regret. I knew I had indirectly caused A Guang's death. He surely knew the taboo. If he hadn't been fooling around with me, how could he have forgotten? If he hadn't been by my side and mistaken my voice for calling him, how could he have answered? I grieved for him, my companion and only true friend from childhood. When I recovered, I went to his house. His parents were not so much sad as angry and refused my apology. They waved it away and said it wasn't my fault, but his fate. In the end, his mother still wept. I left the village and rarely returned. I still don't understand why that night the caller chose his name and not mine. Perhaps he agreed unconsciously in my place. In short, do not answer people calling you on the night of the 15th, especially if they call your name. Is that the end of A Guang's story? I drained my beer and felt a chill. No, it's only the beginning, he said, unusually serious. Time can fade everything, perhaps. Later, I was busy preparing for university entrance exams. Then my parents died. You know this. When my father passed, I returned as custom to bury his ashes in the ancestral tomb. I didn't expect childhood horrors to replay like a rewound film. He took the last sip and continued. My father's death didn't crush me. Sudden departures, like a car crash, can be unbearable. But my father had long been frail, tormented by cancer. I could only watch that long, painful journey. His death felt like release for him. Of course, I'm not cold-blooded. The closest person to me was gone. I was depressed. Back in the village, I thought of A Guang and grew irritable. The night after burying my father's ashes was the 15th. I was drinking homemade village liquor I'd bought somewhere. Pure, fragrant, with a fierce aftertaste. I wandered aimlessly and unknowingly reached the most forbidden place, the back hill. I retched against a wall, head pounding. A cool gust woke me. I sobered gradually. On the 15th, everyone sleeps early. From the back hill, I saw only a few flickering lights in the village, like candles. I realized where I was, but I still wasn't afraid. Suddenly, I thought of A Guang. In that desolate place, drunk, I shouted his name and started back. Just as I was leaving the hill, I vaguely heard a voice call, Xiaoxi. That was my childhood nickname. Few knew it, but he did. I thought I misheard and ignored it, staggering on. Then I heard it again, clear this time, as if right at my ear, even the breath on my skin. I was fully sober now. I hurled the bottle and shouted, "Who's there? Who's calling me?" I shouted and heard no echo. In the quiet mountain village, apart from dogs barking and the wind, I heard only my own heavy breathing. I ran straight home, didn't even wash, and collapsed on the bed. In truth, I didn't sleep at all. All night, I heard Xiaoxi weeping. The sound stopped at dawn. I went downstairs with dark circles. When my family asked, I only said I was grieving. My uncle looked at me, called me over, solemnly took a small pouch like a talisman from inside his shirt, and hung it around my neck. He smiled gently and told me not to lose it, treating me like a child. Days passed. The voice returned only occasionally, so I ignored it and went to visit friends as usual. No one praised how I'd grown, but everyone remembered my father. Finally, only A Guang's family remained. I didn't want to go because of painful memories, but an inexplicable force drove me back to his house. It was abandoned. After his death, calamities struck one after another, severe illness, accidents. Especially in the attic, people said someone called his name at night. Yet no one had truly heard it. His family moved away. No one dared enter. The door was still unlocked. I pushed it open. Inside, everything was as it had been the day he died. My head throbbed. Time rewound to that day. The same layout, the same steps, the same search. I climbed to the attic. It was still there, but the house felt darker. I didn't want to go up, yet I longed to see him. Was he waiting for me? I climbed, each wooden tread creaking, tired under my weight after years unused. At last I reached the attic. The room was stifling and musty, but bright inside, unlike before. Warm sunlight filled the small space. I slowly crawled to the spot where he had sat, took the same posture, and looked ahead. A Guang, are you there? The scholar's child in me spoke. Xiaoxi. Just as I began to doze off, a clear call woke me. Xiaoxi, another voice called. I panicked. I knew the taboo. Only then did I fully wake and wonder why I was here. I crawled to the exit and tried to climb down, but there were no stairs. The attic wasn't high above the ground, at most 3 meters, yet it looked like a bottomless abyss. Xiaoxi. The shouting grew fiercer. I yelled, "Don't come here." But the attic was empty. I waved helplessly and raised only dust, rolling quickly through the sunbeams. Little 4, at last I saw him. It was Guang staring at me from where he used to sit. He no longer looked terrifying like before he died. He was just himself, unchanged. I felt returned to childhood, playing together. He was still smart and strong, and I giggled foolishly behind him. I cried, tears fell. Whether from fear or emotion, I could not speak, only weep. He smiled, slowly crawled toward me, calling my name as he came. With every inch, his nails scraped the floor with a rustling sound. He came so close he could have touched my face with one hand. "Xiaoxi, I've been waiting for you." He reached me and stopped. I stared wide at him as he had at me. His figure grew in my pupil, filling my vision. I was sinking into despair, which might be good since nothing in this world seemed worth holding on to anymore. Suddenly, I could move and speak again. But his image was gone. I was alone in the attic, as if nothing had happened. It took a long time to catch my breath and calm down. At the door, I saw the stairs were there, after all. Perhaps I was the only one to survive violating this taboo. I felt shaken, as if I'd escaped a disaster. I was wrong. Back home, I found my family in mourning. My uncle had passed peacefully while reading in the living room. No warning. It just happened. I stared at his body, eyes open and blank. I knelt before him day and night and finally fainted. Later they told me the only thing he said before dying was to wait for me to return and to tell me to take better care of myself. Because of me, I had killed the two dearest to me. I did not blame A Guang. He had no choice. I blamed myself. If I had thought more, been less impulsive, perhaps it would have been different. For the first time seeing him so sorrowful, my friend lifted the talisman from his neck. My cousin gave me this. I always keep it with me. He looked at me and said, "Do you understand now? Never make promises to anyone on the night of the 15th of the 7th lunar month." I nodded mechanically, reminding myself that I had been warned of this countless times since I was a child.